Happy Monday, ladies and gentlemen, all in crypto here, and welcome back for another YouTube video. Today we're going to be talking about none other than Hedera Hashgraph. Many of you may know it as HBAR. Of course, HBAR is the native token, or the ticker for the native token of Hedera Hashgraph, a project that I truly believe should be in the top 10 in regards to cryptocurrencies via market cap. And I think the only reason it's not is because it's not truly understood and actually known what the capabilities of this cryptographic project are. Now, Hedera Hashgraph is not a blockchain. It is a DAG, which has a number of benefits. And actually, Hedera Hashgraph has a lot more capabilities than perhaps because it's a DAG, then perhaps many of your, most of your sort of traditional blockchain. So we will talk a little bit about that in this video. I do have somebody far more educated than myself on Hedera to actually come on the show soon to talk to us about all the great things happening and actually explain Hedera, how it works, you know, the actual consensus, the capabilities, the potential, all of these great things, the governing council, which I think a lot of people have a beef with from a decentralization point of view. But there is a roadmap to decentralization and a kind of genesis or path from the governing council to multiple sort of node operators, including public node operators. But we'll leave a lot of that, the kind of technicalities, to that individual who should be coming on soon to talk to us about it all. But I wanted to kind of give a bit of an update on Hedera and look at some of the big news to come out of the previous 2 weeks. Some of it involves, of course, MasterCard. We also have the likes of Standard Bank and Sinha Bank that have essentially partnered with Hedera. We've got big news in regards to the staking rewards. I'm sure many people aren't aware that Hedera have actually voted to reduce their staking rewards from 6.5% down to 2.5%. So we'll be giving a little bit of a shout out for that. We'll be looking at the energy efficiency of Hedera and a few other things like the governing council. And of course, we've got news in regards to Kia partnering with Hedera, which is certainly something interesting. And we're going to be talking about Amtech Incorporated, which essentially are looking to be the future of CBDCs, digital cash, and financial markets. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's start things off with Hedera. And again, I want to kind of reiterate the statement that I made at the start. Hedera absolutely has the potential and arguably should be in the top 10 in regards to cryptocurrency projects out there. Now, it's not a traditional blockchain. It's a DAG. It's essentially it works in an aggregated fashion. We will be, again, getting somebody on the show to talk to us in a lot more detail at a higher level than I can possibly do about Hedera, how it works and everything in between, and this kind of concepts of a DAG versus perhaps your standard kind of blockchains and all the capabilities that it gives you. If we look at real TPS, we can see that Hedera is miles ahead of the kind of competitors, if you will. Certainly in regards to energy efficiency, Hedera is the greenest blockchain according to this. And this is, of course, the University College of London. You can see Hedera here. Then you've got Binance Coin, which is 19 times more sort of costly. Solana, Near, Tron, Toncoin, Avalanche, Visa, Flow, Algorand, Tezos, Ethereum, Polkadot, Cardano, Elrond, and Bitcoin. Very interesting. There's a lot of benefits that being a DAG actually grants you. In terms of TPS, in terms of how you can actually aggregate data, in terms of finality, in terms of multiple different things, fair kind of transactions, or fair ordering of those transactions, and a number of other interesting things. But I really want to get somebody on who's far more experienced than myself to actually talk about the technicalities, how it works, the consensus, and everything in between. A lot of people are still not aware that the governing council recently voted to reduce the fees to reduce the staking reward, from 6.5% all the way down to 2.5%. This, I think, is good in regards to a lack or a a lessening of inflation. I believe there is 65% of the tokens already distributed, 35% actually still to be distributed, that ultimately contribute to funding the project, so on and so forth. And there's some absolutely huge news that I thought I'd share that's been coming out of Hedera this week alone. So let's get into it all. Justin Hedera Governing Council doing Governing Council things. ABRDN PLC, a 500 billion plus AUM, tokenizing its funds with Archex Executive. So this is certainly interesting. We're seeing a lot of use cases come up for Hedera and come out of the Governing Council, which actually includes some of the largest companies in the world that have essentially committed to running servers that cannot be on the same service provider. So you only have 2 nodes on Amazon Web Services. You can only have 2, and they've all got to be at different points. Where if you look at a lot of staking consensus mechanisms and the nodes, a lot of them are ran on the same kind of server providers like Amazon Web Services or whatever it may be. Hedera is quite interesting in the fact that they actually don't allow the nodes to be ran on more than 2 nodes to be ran on the same server provider. You can see this is, of course, the Governing Council, which actually has some of the largest companies in the world. You've got Dell Technologies, DBS, you've got the likes of Google. Swirled, of course, is the kind of company behind Hedera that Lehman is a part of, who is nothing short of a genius, I believe. Certainly when it comes to cryptography, he's solved a lot of issues and he's putting out some really, really interesting things and many more to come. So this is interesting. Again, lots of sort of use cases and products coming out of the Governing Council with their connections, but also lots of organic ones. We're excited to announce that Fresh Supply Co. AU has integrated Hedera into its continuity API. This connects Hedera to banks, the MasterCard network, and so on. MasterCard Payment Gateway Services, MPGS, and other forthcoming MasterCard Web3 and digital asset products. This is extremely interesting. To move on with this thread, as the largest user of MasterCard's Provenance MP private blockchain before it was discontinued, Fisco took on the role of making sure that users could easily migrate to a scalable network after it closed down. Through the Plug and Play API, the largest user of MasterCard Provenance alongside Fisco are already in the continuity sandbox, paving the way for these other companies to migrate to Hedera. Alongside legacy MP users, the continuity API enables any use case in the world that requires event-based payments automation, particularly across the supply chain. This payment triggers functionality is a core component of Fisco's product offered by Hedera. The tokenization of financialization of real-world assets and events through the agricultural supply chain. As these tokenized items move from location to location, payments must be released only when pre-approved conditions are met. Here, payments trigger combined with the IOT device automates this process, greatly improves efficiency. Processing $700 million worth of assets in the past year, Fisco alone is targeting $3 billion over the next 12 months as it moves to accelerate payments across Australia's agribusiness and food manufacturing sector. So this is huge news. The one thing I like about Hedera is they have an unbelievable amount of actual partnerships and a lot of this TPS. What's the point in having a high TPS crypto project? It's not a blockchain, remember it's a DAG, if nobody uses it. Well, Hedera actually have some real use cases and generate fees from the uses of the blockchain to help fund the project. And there's lots of calculations that can actually be made on that. Moving on to the next bit of news that we have, don't forget to register for our free virtual event tomorrow, Stablecoins, the future of international money transfers, feat speakers from SB Group and Shinhan Bank, and of course Swell Labs and SCB. TechSex discussing the remittance POC pilot built on Hedera. Again, this is a project that I think we've covered previously, but it's a pretty huge one. Hedera seem to really be at the heart of many, many things. And this is their announcement that HM Gnensroom, the largest car manufacturing in South Korea, and Kia have introduced a AI-enabled supply chain carbon emission tracking solution on the highly scalable Hedera Hashgraph. Two huge names here. We've got Hyundai and we've got Kia, both building on top of Hedera. You can see here what this is all about in more detail. We'll leave a link to these tweets in the description. And then, of course, you've got the exciting partnership with essentially MTech, a first-of-its-kind modern central bank infrastructure provider. We know that essentially the really interesting thing with Hedera is they're very well positioned to make real fire thing, and they're in a kind of prime position to do so. It's a very, very impressive blockchain from a technological point of view in regards to the capabilities that it has, but also in regards to being positioned in a very powerful place to actually capture a lot of the kind of institutional adoption, as well as potentially the retail kind of adoption. It just needs to kind of get itself out there, if that makes sense. But this is a very interesting partnership because you can see Tech, an award-winning technology company, helps to transform the regularity review process of fintech for several central banks with APIs-led regulatory sandbox. With 6 central banks onboarded, the company connects central banks and fintechs while reducing friction and promoting a developer-friendly environment. The company has successfully developed RegTech and CBDC stack solutions by harnessing DLT and blockchain technologies. Very, very interesting. This is an interesting company that essentially is utilizing Hedera along with IMB, Microsoft, MasterCard, and a number of others. So Hedera, to summarize this video, I believe is massively slept on. I think it could be a top 10 crypto, and I think it's going to do exceptionally well. Just based on some of the small things that we've looked at today in terms of partnerships and some of the comments that I've made in regards to performance, and statistics we've shown in regards to performance, whether that be real TPS, whether that be the kind of eco-friendliness of Hedera, and there's a lot more to come down the line. That there's a very clear vision for decentralization for Hedera, which some would argue isn't right now with the governing council, and scale, which I think is very encouraging. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. I would love to know your thoughts, comments, and concerns about HBAR, Hedera Hashgraph. If you do have any, it's good for us to sort of talk about them openly. But I think Hedera is a massively slept-on project that people need to start paying more attention to. And I think the only thing that is preventing Hedera from already being a top 10 crypto is simply the education surrounding it and the acknowledgement of it. On that note, I'm going to love and leave you. If you've enjoyed the content, like, appreciate it as a comment, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next.